Hello there, I'm Lady Loy and I'm a DJ on Gold Standard Radio, Saturdays 7 till 9, and on Lovers Rock Radios, Fridays 7 till 9, where you get nostalgic vibes. I wanted to talk about Jamaican pride more than any other pride because it's more obvious in Jamaicans, and I'm writing a book. It's called Everything You Wanted to Know About Blackness But Was Afraid to Ask, and I'm reading out chapters to you from that book so that you'll know what to expect when it comes out. Okay, the danger of stepping on Jamaican pride. There's a word we often use almost casually, but it carries far more weight than we admit. That word is pride, and depending on where you're listening from, depending on how you were raised, pride can mean confidence or arrogance, or dignity, or stubbornness, or even danger. For some people, pride is something you're warned against. For others, it's something you're willing to die for. In the Bible, it says, pride comes before a fall. And that difference matters, because a lot of the time, pride isn't about showing off at all. It isn't about thinking you're better than anyone else. Very often, pride is about something much quieter, much more serious. It's about not disappearing. Many of us were taught early on the visible pride attracts trouble. Don't get too big. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't draw attention. Don't let people think you're uppity. So you learn to suppress it. You feel proud, but you swallow it. You succeed, but you soften the story. You stand tall, but only halfway. Over time, pride doesn't leave. It just goes underground. And when pride goes underground, it doesn't become humility. It becomes pressure. And that's why so many people struggle, not just with expressing pride publicly, but even with allowing it privately, even within their own families, their own communities, their own inner circles. You start editing your joy. You second guess your confidence. You shrink your achievements so no one feels threatened, and inside something tightens. Now, when we talk about Caribbean cultures and Jamaican culture in particular, pride is not cosmetic. It's not decorative. It's not optional. Pride there is existential. It's bound up with honour, respect, face and survival. It is deeply internal, deeply embodied and deeply serious. That's why you can see situations where an argument escalates far beyond what an outsider expects. Sometimes to the point of violence, and often the person who caused the offence has no idea they've done anything at all. From their perspective, it was a comment, a joke, a tone, a look. From the inside of the offended person, something sacred was touched. And this is the part that rarely gets named honestly. The reaction isn't about ego, it's about extinction. There is a belief living quietly in the nervous system that says, if I allow this, I disappear. Not socially embarrassed, not mildly diminished, disappear. As a person, as a self, as something that matters. That belief didn't come from nowhere. It comes from histories where yielding wasn't neutral, where submission didn't lead to compromise, but to erasure, where people lost names, languages, bodies, children, futures, where respect was the last thing that couldn't be taken unless you let it go. So pride becomes the final line of defence, not a personality trait, but a guardian, a sentinel standing watching over the self saying, you won't erase me. The problem is this. Guardians are meant to protect, not rule. When pride has to do a job of survival for too long, it becomes hyper alert. It starts reacting not just to danger, but to perceived danger. It can't afford delay. It can't afford nuance. Because extinction logic doesn't negotiate. And when someone is operating under extinction logic, the outside world misreads them completely. People call it arrogance, aggression, being hot-headed. But inside the body is saying, if I don't respond now, I cease to exist. This is why telling someone to just let it go doesn't work, because to them, letting it go doesn't feel like maturity. It feels like death. Here's the difficult truth, spoken with respect. Pride that is not allowed to live safely inside the self will eventually express itself violently outside the self. Not always physically, sometimes emotionally, verbally, relationally. But the mechanism is the same. Suppressed pride doesn't become peace, it becomes volatility. And this is where the conversation has to deepen, not retreat, because the answer is not to shame pride out of the people, nor to glorify destructive reactions as cultural authenticity. The answer is to mature pride without stripping it of its power. There's a difference between wounded pride and grounded pride. Wounded pride is sharp because it has to be. Grounded pride is calm because it knows who it is. Grounded pride does not require universal approval, not because it doesn't care, but because its existence is not up for debate. It doesn't need to dominate a room to feel real. It doesn't need to punish to feel respected. It can say, that hurt, without needing to destroy. This is the quiet work that rarely gets airtime, learning to demonstrate pride to yourself, letting yourself acknowledge your worth without shrinking, allowing joy without bracing for backlash, building a sense of internal continuity, a felt knowing that you survive even when challenged, misunderstood, or momentarily diminished. Because when that continuity exists, something profound happens. The extinction alarm quiets. The reaction slows. Choice comes back online. Pride moves from the nervous system into the spine, from reflex into rootedness. And here's the part that may sound counterintuitive. This doesn't weaken culture, it preserves it. Cultures don't disappear because they soften. They disappear because they calcify under permanent threat. The evolution of pride is not betrayal. It is survival at a higher level. True pride doesn't ask, how do I prove myself? It asks, how do I remain myself without losing everything? And maybe that's where pride was always meant to land. Not as something that costs lives, futures, or relationships, but as something that protects them. Not loud, not suppressed, just settled. A quiet, unshakable knowing, I am here, I am real, I do not vanish when challenged. And because of that, I no longer need to burn the world to prove it. That kind of pride doesn't disappear. It finally gets to rest. I hope that made sense to you and helps you to understand why people react the way they do, because sometimes you do kind of think that a reaction is disproportionate to the crime or the perceived crime. Sometimes we used to say when we used to go to a dance, you better not step on his shoes because goodness knows what might happen. If you brush past somebody without saying sorry quick enough, you don't know what would happen, because by brushing past that person and not apologising, you're almost dismissing that person and say they don't exist. Not good. So it's about acknowledging people, making people feel respected, making people feel present and as though they exist. And so I hope you found this useful. As you know, like I said before, you can find me on Fridays on Lovers Rock Radio, where I play nostalgic music between 7 and 9 p.m. And you can find me on Saturdays on the Roller Coaster Show between 7 and 9, where I play new releases, play some soca, play some international tracks, even play some oldies sometimes. But my thing is really new music, new artists, new genres, things that are different. Not your norm. It's no ordinary radio station. But apart from that, look out for my book when it comes out. It's not finished yet. All you wanted to know about blackness, but were afraid to ask. And that's all for now. I'm Lady Loy, checking out.